Hi, welcome to our world-changing documentary panel. I'm Sharon Anderson-Morris, CEO of FiReFilms, and I'm Mark's sister, which is very special. And we started FiReFilms in 2012 as a result of going to Sundance and finding some really crucial documentaries that we thought we should share with the world. And we chose that year The Cove and brought Louis Sohoyos to our conference. And that was the first year that we started having documentary films at our conferences here. And we created a lot of great change in the world from the films that we've shown. How many people were here last night for Sea of Shadows? Okay, pretty good, pretty good amount of you. Did you like it? Yeah. So because we have some amazing filmmakers here, I'm not going to take any more time, but I'd like to start off with Andrea Crosta, he is the executive director and founder of Earth League International. He is the subject in the Sea of Shadows. He's the guy that went out there and risked his life many, many, many times, and is continuing to do so to save a species of porpoises, small whales. So what do you think, Andrea, was your reason for getting involved with this film?
Was our second film with the same production company, the same director. The first one was The Ivory Game. We did it about 3 years ago. It's now on Netflix, and I immediately realized after The Ivory Game that for organizations like ours, we are a small NGO compared to other NGOs. We do a very unique job, sometimes even very difficult to understand, to pitch, to fundraise for. So the only chance we have to fulfill our mission and to keep doing what we are doing is to actually partner with important media partners, director, production companies, and sort of work together. Mm. And this is what I learned from Ivory Game to Sea of Shadows. In Sea of Shadows, I think the result is really good, and also our work, our mission, the cause is really benefiting, because we created an incredible synergy between us and my team and the filmmakers. And of course, filmmakers, I'm not a filmmaker, but they are all filmmakers. So I guess for a filmmaker, it's very important to remain independent and, objective. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you really get great results when you become one with your subjects and you help each other.
Perfect.
So
let's take a look at the clip.
At the clip. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I have visual on their ship. This is organized crime.
Mexican narco-traffickers call Totoaba the cocaine of the sea. The fishing of the Totoaba by Chinese traffickers and Mexican cartels is killing the vaquita. The vaquita is getting extinct.
There were 100, and then there were 60. And now there's fewer than 30.
Come on, sweetie. Come on, mama.
To stop the killing of the vaquita, we have to take down those traffickers. The whole thing stinks.
It is corruption all the way. Who is El Chapo of the Totoaba?
There's some really bad guys here. They don't want to see us succeed.
If we don't save the vaquita, we will lose the most beautiful places on the planet. I keep thinking about the moment when only one vaquita will be left in the wild. This is a war against the extinction of a species.
We have to hold on to the hope that it's going to work.
The poachers are unacceptable. They'll take any means necessary.
Clock's ticking.
We will fight for every single life. We won't stop.
So last night we had a tremendous response, and already have had 3 people in our audience. I mean, you guys are all world changers, so showing you the right films can change and has changed our world. And had 3 emails so far from last night about private screenings and corporate screenings to be able to get the support of not only to help keep funding for the, there's only, how many left?
Less than 15.
Less than 15 left, and the killing season is November, December. So our timing of showing this film last night was critical. We're working right now already on screenings in San Diego and connecting governments together to save these beautiful species.
And as we say in the film, the vaquita is a flagship, is a symbol for the whole Sea of Cortez. The moment the vaquita is gone, then NGOs will be, will stop going there, and then the whole Sea of Cortez will become a killing field, just illegal gill nets to catch everything. So it will be the end of a beautiful place.
So I believe this is going to be Netflix. Is that correct?
No, it's National Geographic. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We'll air on TV in the US on the 7th or 8th of November,
Okay.
so very soon.
Look out for it. If you haven't seen it, look out for that. Okay, great. Elizabeth Unger, the director of Madidi. Why did you become inspired to create this film, and what is this film about before we show the clip?
I come from a biology background, so I have a lot of experience in wildlife conservation. And I was in Bolivia in 2015 for a different project, and I was tipped off by a Bolivian governmental staffer that there was a massive amount of jaguar trafficking happening in the country with a ring of Chinese nationals tracking the parts out to China. And I was completely floored because I knew coming from the conservation world that nobody was talking about this in 2015. So I started kind of ringing the alarms and pitched National Geographic, talked to all the major NGOs, and people told us that we had a massive story on our hands. And so since that day, 4 years later, I've still been working on this project, and we're excited to change the world with it.
Yeah, I had no idea that that was even an issue.
Yeah, I mean, my interest was further piqued when I found out that China was investing $250 billion in the Latin American infrastructure development. So the catch of those deals is that Chinese companies and Chinese workers are coming into Latin America, and they're building up these projects like dams and bridges and highways, which are actually deforesting the very areas that jaguars live. And to boot, some of these Chinese workers are opportunistically baiting local hunters to hunt jaguars at a massive rate. And so while the media is focused a lot on Africa right now with elephants and rhinos, people don't understand that in South America there's a decimation of a brand new species going on, which is a jaguar.
Okay, let's see the clip.
Considero que mi familia es la vida silvestre, ¿no? Son mis hermanos. Es mi familia, es mi madre, mi esposa. Son todos. Y dentro de eso, la naturaleza también es parte de mí. Bien, el Parque Nacional Madidi viene afrontando fuertes amenazas. Han habido compromisos por parte del gobierno boliviano con el gobierno de China para financiar megaproyectos de desarrollo a nivel nacional. Se nos presenta ahora una problemática con el tráfico de colmillos de jaguar que han estado promoviendo algunos ciudadanos chinos en las áreas circundantes al Parque Nacional Madidi. Entonces eso nos indica de que sí hay una red y lo vamos a investigar.
In China, wildlife trade is something you see everywhere. Just walking down the street. There is a history of consuming products derived from nature through traditional Chinese medicine. It's something that you're definitely surrounded by. When I first heard about this Jaguar trade, I realized that the trade is obviously way bigger than people realize right now because no one knows anything about it. I think it's important for me as a journalist to go to the source of the trade, be able to get close to the traders involved in this and figure out how much they're paying, how they're sourcing these products.
La mayoría seguramente preferirá dar un paso al costado o decir que no pasa nada por acá. No lo van a hacer los guardaparques. No lo vamos a admitir. No lo vamos a permitir.
As a Chinese person, I do feel some responsibility if the demand is coming from China. What's the cost I'm willing to pay? What are the risks I'm willing to take?
Me preocupa, pero dentro de mí dije que miedo únicamente le tengo a Dios, a nadie más. Y no le voy a bajar la mirada a ningún traficante que se me presente enfrente mío. Ojalá que el tiempo nos dé para poder llegar a descubrir los peces gordos que llamamos.
And first of all, what stage is the film in? And what do you hope would happen with an audience like this to change the situation?
We're currently in post-production, and I'm sorry if you guys weren't able to see the subtitles. I think the chairs were hiding them. But we'll be happy to send out the trailer to you guys if you want to see it again. We're in post-production. We just submitted to Sundance a couple of days ago. And we're basically looking for financing to get us through the end. If we make it to Sundance, we have 10 weeks till picture lock. And so if we want to keep up our momentum in the edit, we really need financing and support right now. As far as our impact campaign, we've been working with the United Nations for the last 2 years on this film. We're also working with Leonardo DiCaprio's production company, Appian Way. And we are supported by Sundance and National Geographic already, so we have these amazing partners, and everybody wants to help us, whether it's with the film or the impact campaign, to actually stop this decimation of jaguars and actually hold the Chinese government and Chinese companies and local South American governments as well responsible for the big political economic deals that are being made. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a big deal. Also, what we do at FiReFilms is we send out documentaries, for example, from these amazing directors, producers, activists, every year 12 to 15. And we ask the directors why they made the film. We pay the directors for the opportunity to show this to our members, which is absolutely unheard of. I don't know why people always think that directors are rich. Directors actually lose between $500,000 and $1 million per film. And by the time they already get into it as a first-time filmmaker, it can be just totally devastating. So FiReFilms is here to help with that, with our connections, and to keep documentary filmmakers going. Judy Korin, you made an amazing documentary called The Great Hack that is making its way around the world right now. You're the producer, tell us what got you involved with this and a little bit about the film, and then we'll show the clip.
Okay. Yeah, I guess our film is about a different kind of extinction, which is the extinction of civil discourse and democracy. And I came into the project when Jahan Najem, who made an amazing film called Startup.com with Chris Hegedus, and Karim Amir, who together made The Square, were transitioning the film from being about the Sony hack, if you all remember that, where there was this incredible intersection between technology, politics, and entertainment, and they were fascinated by that. But very quickly, there was the hack of the DNC during the 2016 election cycle, and so we kind of steered the boat that way and went down a lot of rabbit holes with the Dnc election hack. And we realized that ultimately the hack was not about any kind of computer system. The hack was really happening to people's minds. The manipulation of voters, not the manipulation of the vote itself necessarily, although that, as the previous speaker said, is a huge problem. We found characters to explore that dilemma, and then we also, and this is sort of my specialty that I brought to the table, is we had to find a way to make the invisible world of personal data visible in a way that would feel emotional and experiential to the viewers, so that it was not dry and abstract. And I happen to have a background in animation and motion graphics, graphic design, so helped gel that. So that's how I came to it. And the film is in 190 countries on the Netflix platform in 23 languages, and there's a vibrant, ironically, a vibrant conversation happening on social media in every language. People saying it's the scariest, the best horror movie of 2019. But people are scared and worried, and worried about, more than anything else, worried about democracy and the integrity of free and fair elections.
Thank you. Okay, let's show the clip.
Who has seen an advertisement that has convinced you that your microphone is listening to your conversations?
All of your interactions, your credit card swipes, web searches, locations, likes, they're all collected in real time into a $1 trillion a year industry.
The real game changer was Cambridge Analytica. They'd worked for the Trump campaign and for the Brexit campaign. They started using information warfare.
Cambridge Analytica claimed to have 5,000 data points on every American voter.
I started tracking down all these Cambridge Analytica ex-employees.
Someone else that you should be calling to committee is Brittany Kaiser.
Brittany Kaiser, once a key player inside Cambridge Analytica, casting herself as a whistleblower.
The reason why Google and Facebook are the most powerful companies in the world is because last year data surpassed oil in value. Data is the most valuable asset on Earth.
We targeted those whose minds we thought we could change until they saw the world the way we wanted them to. I do know that their targeting tool was considered a weapon.
There is a possibility that the American public had been experimented on.
This is becoming a criminal matter. When people see the extent of the surveillance, I think they're going to be shocked.
And I still fear for your life.
Yeah.
With the powerful people that are involved.
But I can't keep quiet just because it'll make powerful people mad.
Data rights should be considered just fundamental rights.
This is about the integrity of our democracy.
These platforms which were created to connect us have now been weaponized. It's impossible to know what is what, because nothing is what it seems.
And as Judy said, we can see this right now on Netflix. And what do you hope to have happen as a result of people learning about their privacy being?
So we're doing impact work around the film now. We've shifted into that mode. And we hope that this continues to inform and move people to do what they can personally to protect their privacy, to advocate for privacy, and to work to contain disinformation, and to also, most importantly, I think, hold the technology platforms to account, and to have a real conversation about democracy, and if that's more important than this opaque advertising technology system that's been co-opted to manipulate voters. What we would love to ask from this community is if you're interested in helping support our impact campaign. That's not something that Netflix does, so we're looking for funds for that. If you'd like to have a screening, especially if you're a tech company and want to have a screening and talk about the ethics of this space and personal data usage with your team, we would love to see the tech sector kind of come back to those idealistic roots about do no harm and maybe shift to move slow, move deliberately, and fix things.
Perfect, yeah. And our corporate friends here, like Oracle hosted last night's event, which was fantastic. And Oracle has hosted screenings of documentaries as well as Deloitte has too. And so FiReFilms worked with our people, our friends, to get the right documentaries to show to the corporations and to the clients. So, okay, again, Lindsay Keys, the director of what used to be called Tick Countries. This is the coolest thing. The names that change, like when you first start out and come up with the name at the beginning, there's like five iterations later. So between like our slide, wherever that is, and now, the current title is Lyme Trials. So
it'll probably change again
I know,
by the time the film comes out. But our website
for the
is
moment,
Lyme
it was called Tick Country. Now it's Lyme Trials. So tell us about how you got involved with that, and then let's show the trailer.
So I grew up in the woods in upstate New York, and slowly but surely people around me started to become sick with Lyme disease. And I had Lyme disease several times as a child, and I was cured. And then I became very sick in my early 20s and was so confused by what I was experiencing in these doctors' offices. Some doctors said, I won't even test you for that disease. Don't talk to me about that. And I was fired for asking for a Lyme test despite having all the symptoms. And then on the other end of that spectrum were doctors, one doctor in particular, she said, I'm not even going to test you. I see 10 people a day like you. And I thought, how is this happening? This makes no sense. And so eventually I wound up having to go to a doctor that didn't accept insurance, and I thought that was strange. And I was given a different test that I'd never heard of before, and I tested positive for the first time in 10 years. I thought that was strange. And I basically unraveled physically, emotionally, mentally. I couldn't read. I was getting lost in New York City on my way home from work. I couldn't hold cameras, and I had doctors saying, oh, well, you're getting older, and I was 25. So what is going on? And so at the doctor's office that I wound up at that didn't accept insurance, the nurse practitioner, she said to me, how are you going to get through this? Because I was about to start very experimental and hardcore treatment, and I said to her, I'm going to make a documentary about Lyme disease. I don't know how, but it's happening. And she said, oh, we have another patient here who's your age, and he has Lyme, and he's a filmmaker. Do you want me to connect you? And so that was 4 years ago, and my co-director and I set out on a quest that has taken us down a rabbit hole that we never knew existed. So
let's take a look.
Yeah.
We have an early warning in your health this morning.
Ticks are not just in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. They're in the South, they're in the far West, and that means that these things are everywhere.
Here's one, here, here, here. So that's 81 larvae in one 30-meter drag.
Summer means lots of outdoor activities, which also means prime season for Lyme disease, the most common tick-borne ailment in the U.S.
Before you're a victim, you're oblivious.
I knew none of this. I didn't know that 300,000 people this year tested positive for Lyme.
Most doctors say it can be treated with a few weeks of antibiotics, but there are some patients with unexplained symptoms. It's led to a controversial diagnosis referred to as chronic Lyme disease.
Chronic Lyme disease is a rejected term in American medicine. The megaphone has been held by the Centers for Disease Control, by the Infectious Diseases Society of America, and they basically say short courses of antibiotics cure, when there's lots of research to suggest that they don't.
They said it was psychological, and I was just saying to myself, like, what do I do now? Like, how do I tell them that it's not?
It always started with the arms folded, the body language. You just need to stop doctor shopping. Without a diagnosis of Lyme disease and the treatment for it, I would not be alive today.
I published in top journals. I've developed, 2 cancer drugs. And even then, people said, you don't have Lyme disease. I was misdiagnosed for 4 years. I mean, I presented literally with cardiac manifestations, with extreme fatigue. I mean, I completely fell through the cracks of the system, and I'm part of the system.
Surgeon walked into my room, and he said to me, you'll be dead by Monday without a heart transplant. So why do we do this for Lyme disease? Why do we take a one-size-fits-all approach? We've got people at the prime of their lives who are taken out of society.
I started researching and I was like, what is so controversial about an infection? I don't see any benefit to anyone other than the insurance industry. I mean, if you're paying $100,000 plus a year for these patients who are having treatment failure, you want to cut those costs. Then the light bulb went off. This was about business. And I'd had enough, and I was fighting. Well, how are they in court?
I think about my family mostly. I don't want them always taking care of me, I want to be able to take care of them sometimes.
I can't just let her get worse. We have to try to fight until we feel like we've exhausted everything.
I was one of those people searching for answers and hoping that there were people like me out there trying to figure it all out. What if I told you that we could image Borrelia in your body? If you could image this, I'm not sure there's a controversy anymore. It's personal for me. I should have told these bacteria, don't piss me off.
Right now, many of these places in too many countries are havens for tiny, almost invisible, 8-legged creatures waiting for the next meal. On balance, they have power far greater than our own. We need to change that.
We only have a couple of minutes left, and I really want to give Chris a chance. I think you're creating global awareness about something that people really didn't acknowledge in the past, and with global warming and areas where it's not freezing like it used to, this is becoming more and more prevalent, correct?
Yeah, and there's been no scientific progress in 44 years, which is another problem, and I find it highly suspicious, so.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Chris Hegedus, one of my favorite people in the entire world. I met Chris 2 years ago when she was the director-producer of Unlocking the Cage at FiRe. I don't know if anybody saw that. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. Chris is probably the most well-known professional, amazing director, cinematographer, producer in the world for the subjects that she covers and the beauty with how she covers these. Chris, if you just briefly say to new filmmakers, what do you think they can learn from your experience of being such an expert over the last couple of decades?
Well, thank you, Sharon. I said Sharon's going to be my PR person, and I'm just so happy to be here again. I had a really amazing time when I was here with Unlocking the Cage, and just what this whole community brings. And for us filmmakers, it brings a lot of things to think about, and that's what filmmaking is. And I'm happy to be here with Lindsay. I'm producing a producer on her film. Films are very personal. I don't think there's a one thing fit all. I mean, first of all, it's an art form and it's a business. And, in order to do these things, I think the most obvious thing that filmmakers need is money and access, and kind of to get the foot in the door. And and passionate, be very passionate about what they're doing, because these films take a long time, a lot of times, and are not easy. For the type of films that I've made over the decades, I tend to do less issue films than kind of films about people who are passionate and taking a risk to make a change in their life or in other people's lives. And the stories I do are followed through people. And I think, on most of these films, I see that as well, that they're following characters who are putting themselves and their lives on the line to do something. And, in the end, I think what's very special about documentaries is that they're also the history of our times. And that's what we're showing people. And, hopefully they can be preserved and kind of remain an archive of that.
And if you haven't heard of, I should have said, Chris was nominated for an Academy Award for The War Room, right?
Right.
And also, you guys probably have heard of Startup.com. That's her, Unlocking the Cage. Because you're such an amazing woman, we would love to take this time. It's your turn, my friend, to give Chris the award that she deserves so beautifully.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Your biggest global impact through film. This is for you, and you deserve this.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I took a picture the other night of Sharon with this because she's such an advocate for filmmakers, and what she's done here with FiRe is really amazing. So I'm very happy to be part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to join FiReFilms, you can do it outside. Where's Diane Tober? We're right there. We see Diane Tober, and we'd love to do corporate screenings. Thank you for keeping us alive, and thank you all for your hard work to show us about the most important things that are happening in this world.